All right, once you've identified the instructional goal in the context and analyzed it, and you have a clear picture of all the instructional objectives that you want the learners to be able to acquire within a particular learning experience, then the next step is to develop the assessment. And there you see, way on the far right end of the diagram, create your summative evaluation, and that's what a terminal is. Now, developing assessment items, once you're clear about the objectives, is actually a pretty straightforward operation. And usually, in my experiences, it's usually the goal steps that end up falling into the terminal assessment, or maybe even just the goal itself. Sometimes you'll have a goal and you'll realize that you can assess that goal by defining a really detailed analytic rubric for that particular goal. Like, for example, if the goal is to be able to, given a water sample, be able to identify objects in the sample and determine if they're animal or plant cells, a final exam for that would be, guess what? Students are going to take a water sample, prepare a wet mount, put it under the microscope, identify objects because they know how to use a microscope, and determine if the objects are animal or plant cells. And so that would be my final exam. That would be my terminal assessment. Some of the other skills, like being able to label the parts of a microscope, that might be something that is included in the practice and feedback, but may not make its way to the final terminal assessment. So I have, but some things might, and so I included some goal steps and also some subordinate goals in my assessment, my terminal assessment items that I might have for this particular project. So you'll see assessment item number 1 is that I want my students to label the parts of a plant cell. Some parts, the cell wall, the chloroplast, the vacuole, and a nucleus. All right, and I look at that picture and I think, ooh, the nucleus is going to be a little tricky. It's squished up there in the upper right. They'll have to prepare a slide mount, and I will observe them doing that. Make sure they follow the procedures well. That might be included in a rubric that I use to assess them, and then also being able to determine if a particular object is plant or animal. I might prepare those slides in advance so I would know what is a plant and an animal, and they go over there and they look in it. You remember those from your science days, I hope, those lab practicals where you walked around the room and answer those kinds of questions. But that would be my terminal assessment. And I would be able to say, when I look at that assessment, that yes, my students have acquired the goal that I have set out for myself if they can successfully perform the skills in that assessment. Now, I do want to point out that in Appendix A of the course notes, I have some guidelines for developing good assessment items, and that is a whole science and art in and of itself. And so, but you need to look through those and use the information in Appendix A to help you create the best possible terminal assessment items that you can. And so that's important. So take a look at those and study them carefully, and make sure that you contact me if you have any specific questions about that.